Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward, safe in the knowledge that one day someone might do the same for you. That is a quote by Princess Diana. Welcome to Trina Talk. This is the podcast where guests share their stories of pursuing their passions, living a fulfilled life, and empowering others. Each week, I talk with inspiring leaders, business owners, and people with amazing stories from around the world in unscripted conversations as they share their successes and failures. This podcast is all about empowering you to keep striving in your personal and professional life. I am your host, Trina L. Martin. Welcome to episode 134. I am so excited to announce that I am an author, a two-time author, and my latest book, I am a co-author on the collaboration titled Make It Happen. Me and 29 other authors share our stories of how we have overcome to make it happen in our lives. And I would like to invite you, if you haven't already gotten your copy, to go and purchase your copy through this link. It's https://bit.ly/33H capital G 9 capital T capital W. Now, on with this week's episode. The topic of this week's episode is We Are Kindness Billionaires. My guest this week is Stephen Brooks. For over 35 years, Stephen has been immersed in all things retail. His career has taken him to 57 different countries, working with retailers, landlords, e-commerce, and retail-affiliated businesses, big and small. Stephen is an author, speaker, and TV commentator for the TD Ameritrade Network. Stephen is passionate about the future of retail and works with his clients to navigate through the complex issues that they face in the ever-changing, consumer-driven world. Hi, Steve. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Thank you so much, Trina, for having me on. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I am happy to speak with you, and your expertise is something that I'm very interested in. Tell the listeners where you're calling from. Where are you at today?
Well, I'm actually in Chicago.
Oh, that's my hometown.
I've lived here for a few years. Originally, I'm from London, as you can probably tell from my accent. And I love it here. Absolutely love it here.
Great. Yeah, I was born and raised in Chicago, so that's my hometown. Been to London many times. Actually, my good friend, because I'm here in Houston, Texas, she just moved here from London like 5 years ago. So we're good friends.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love it. But before we get started, how I like to start the show is tell the listeners a quick version of you and how you became to be the you that you are today.
That's a really interesting question. It's been an amazing journey. I grew up in North London. I'm the middle child of three boys. My father was a bus driver. My mother worked in a sweet factory. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, I guess I didn't enjoy school. I was bullied as well, which didn't really help for a long, long time. I found it really difficult to make friends, and so as I worked my way through the educational system, there was a lot of pressure for us to be the best that we could be. And I delighted my parents by getting a job in a bank. And I don't know how. I do well at interviews, maybe, I don't know, but and I absolutely hated it. I just knew this was never going to be something I wanted to do. And 6 months in, I asked my parents if I could leave, and the condition was that I could leave if I found another job. Bear in mind, I was only 16. I didn't go to college or anything like that, and so the pressure was on to find another job, and a friend of mine had a job in an insurance company and said, I can get you a job here if it's that bad. So I went to work for an insurance company, and I hated it. Again, the day to day, sitting in behind a desk, it just wasn't fulfilling me. And I was only saying yesterday that, the thing I've learned more about in my life is that if you don't get joy out of doing something, stop doing it, because that's so important. And so I found myself into working for a retailer of great repute called FW Woolworth that actually started here in the US, if you remember them.
Yeah.
And that was how I got bitten by the retail bug. And so I worked under some amazing people. I got into the management training scheme. I worked with some amazing people who really grounded me in retail, and the things that I learned from them, and the values that they instilled into me about retail are as relevant today as they were when I was, at that time, 18. And so I worked through that, and then I was fortunate enough to move into a sales role that was kind of connected into retail, and then found myself in a business that after 6 months of being in it, the person that had employed me said that he was going to go back to Scotland, which is where he came from, and would I like to buy the company? And there was only 3 of us, and I sold everything that I had, and I bought the company off of him, and that's how I got into pop-up retailing, and that's been my career ever since, through building and selling companies that still operate today in Europe, in that space, to the creation of the Pop-Up Retail Expert a number of years ago that works with mall owners and with startups and with existing businesses in the retail space, to help them grow in retail, or to move over inventory stock, or to just be better at what they do in a retail environment. And I absolutely love it every day.
Wow, that's interesting. And when I saw what you did, your expertise, I was fascinated with the pop-up retail, because it's been something that I've been seeing. That I'm like, pop-up retail, what exactly is that? Because I hadn't really experienced that. And so correct me if I'm wrong. So like, I go to a mall and there's a store that's not normally in that mall that will show up and have a space there for a
Correct.
limited period of time, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So that was a concept that I was like, that's very interesting, because I have seen some of the big names do that. So for instance, oh my goodness, what's the jury lady's name? I want to say Kate Spade, but it's not her. It's
Kate Spade have done pop-ups.
Yes,
Levi's have done pop-ups.
She has done, but the other lady,
there's actually there is nothing new about pop-ups, right? They go back to the beginning of time.
Okay,
believe it or not.
So
we used to call them markets and souks and bazaars.
Yes.
And if you think, right, that's where retail is actually rooted, right?
Yes.
So pop-up was actually the first ever kind of retail there was. And you're right. What's happened is it's evolved, and pop-up retailing is now just doesn't work for retail. It works for services businesses, and it works for motor dealers and all sorts of things. But it's short-term retailing in either what's called an inline store, so that normal kind of store space that you see in a mall, or on the common areas. The walkways where you have either kiosks or what are called retail merchandise units. So those kind of funny looking things that people try and work from, or of course space. And so it's always been considered a kind of quick route into retail for people. But as time's gone on, big brands have really got into it. Even Tiffany's, Adidas, Nike, Microsoft, all do pop-ups in one form or another. And what's happened with the pandemic, of course, with the real destruction of certain aspects of retailing, is that pop-up is now right front and center of a lot of retail strategies. Because they've realized that maybe we don't need as many stores as we do, but we can go to places when it's our peak time, holiday seasons and things, as you know, for a lot of people, but also for people now to test before they invest. So using that pop-up format to go, do I really want to be in a mall in Valparaiso? People, you'll know Valparaiso. Yeah. Other people, hopefully, can look that one up. But and will it work? So we can try a pop-up shop there. So and right now there is so much buzz around it. I'm getting lots of inquiries to talk about it. I do some television work for the TD Ameritrade network, and it's front and center of retail strategy right now, which is for me is really exciting, and for consumers will be exciting as well, because whether you go into a mall in San Francisco or Houston or Chicago or New York, they all more or less look the same. Same retailers, possibly very similar looking architecture in a lot of ways. And so landlords are realizing that actually incubating local retailers just makes the mall far more exciting. It shows that it's far more in touch with community. And so, locals for me is becoming the new global. So and when you get people like American Express, shop local and getting behind initiatives like that, then I just think that's good for retail.
I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be my next question but I want to go back. So pre-pandemic, what would be the benefit of someone like a Tiffany doing a pop-up? Because we know Tiffany has the beautiful, elaborate stores in the mall. So what would make them do? I understand why they would do it now, but what would make them pre-pandemic want to do a pop-up?
Yeah, good question. For brands like that, it's about brand awareness.
Okay.
And very much just keeping them in their consumers' eyes. Now, it could be that a brand is launching. I mean, if you take Nike, for instance, maybe they're launching a particular new sneaker, or maybe Tiffany, is launching a new range of bracelets. So it's just using that experiential experience for brand awareness. And obviously, there's the PR that goes with that, and so on. So primarily big brands, that's why they do it. Although you're seeing people like Levi's doing pop-up shops, really as a way of moving inventory, but also as a way of testing environments as well.
So, and I just thought of this. So in your research and your marketing and you doing all of this, someone like a Tiffany, which we know is an exclusive brand, not everyone is going to shop at Tiffany. Are you finding that they're doing pop-ups like that so that they can maybe get more of the people who wouldn't normally walk into their doors, that may be intimidated to walk into their doors, that may be just walking the mall browsing and saying, oh, I like that bracelet. That's something I can get, that normally wouldn't do that?
Yeah, very insightful. Very insightful. The thing around pop-ups is actually, pushing it out there into so that there's a lot more touch and feel as far as the consumer is concerned. Believe it or not, 78% of people still want to touch, feel, and engage with the product before they buy it. So if you do feel intimidated of walking into a Tiffany store and you've got a pop-up experience going on the mall, then that's absolutely the right thing to do, because you are going to attract consumers that maybe you wouldn't normally have walking through your door. The other factor to bear in mind, of course, is that there's an immense amount of research by the retailer goes into the right environment for them as well. So, of course, from their perspective, they have a particular target market. Right. And so they know that if they open a store there, then they're probably going to do well. But if they're looking at how do we expand our customer base, then it's a great way to experiment, as I said, in new environments.
Yes.
And so to connect with a consumer that you might not otherwise have connected with. So, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the first thing I thought about, because, I like Tiffany, but that's not a place that I would normally go into.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, if I were walking the mall and I saw that, I wouldn't, because you feel that, okay, if I walk into a Tiffany, I got to have like $10 million to spend here. Whereas if you're walking the mall, you might, okay, I like that necklace. I can get that necklace. So I'm thinking that's very brilliant. If that's what's their underlying reason, that's a good way to touch and reach the unreachable.
Absolutely.
Consumer.
The other, and you're absolutely right. The thing to remember also is that pop-ups don't just actually work in a retail environment as well.
Okay.
So they do work at festivals. They do work at film festivals, for instance, or they'll work at big events.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll find that's where the big brands also like to go. Because maybe they're sponsoring the event anyway, or they have some tie with it. But also, again, if it's a film festival, for instance,
mm-hmm.
that for a week while that film festival is on, there are all sorts of people milling around. So again, it's touching consumers that they may not have got to previously.
Okay, and with your passion for retail that you have, and I see it as you're talking. What do you think the evolution of the mall is going to be now, after pandemic, right? Because
sure,
the pandemic has made everyone go to e-commerce. And so, yeah, what's your take?
Yeah. So, depending on which number you listen to,
mm-hmm.
right? There's somewhere between 23 and 28% of people shopping online right now.
Okay.
Right. So that still means that there's, around 75% of people are still wanting to retail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What the pandemic's done is just accelerate the demise of those people that didn't really focus on their business. So if you just accept that and set that to one side, the same thing's happening with malls. It's just accelerating the demise of some malls that just don't work anymore for a whole number of reasons. The future of retail is still around the connection and the sharing of products, ideas, and services. Okay, and what retail has to do is, and we've actually just launched a program around this, a new program, which we're calling the Hollywood effect. Okay, so it's got to become more entertaining. It's got to become a blockbuster. Mm-hmm. Okay, and by that I mean that just like a movie, when you come out of a blockbuster movie, you want to talk about the action scene, or you want to talk about the love scene, or you want to talk about the ending, and you want to tell all your friends, and you want all your friends to go and see it, right? And that's the retail experience that retail owners and mall owners should be aiming for. Okay. 64% of people will still go back and find the same salesperson that they bought from if they got amazing customer service. Mm-hmm. And so that you have to think about.
Right.
There is a way that online and inline or offline, depending on how you want to position it, can coexist. And so the typical example of that is just looking at somebody like Amazon, mm-hmm. right, that is opening brick and mortar stores. Okay. So technology is advancing that. Amazon has this, pick up and just walk out format that they're working, but they're also opening, bigger stores where they've got selected items that you can retail, because we want to interact with people. Okay. Now, the pandemic's obviously turned everybody onto Zoom, right. And that's fabulous because, people like us can connect mm-hmm. like this, and we may not ever have met or discussed things and so on. But that only meets a certain percentage of our social need, right? So we do have to be, we do want to be out. it's interesting that just before, I think it was 2019, a university here ran a course about social interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it was positioned that we don't speak to people anymore because you can order your coffee on a Starbucks app and you can just walk in and pick it up. You can order a ride now and sit in the back of your Lyft or your Uber and never talk to anybody. You can order your groceries online and just have them delivered to your door and never talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And this course was oversubscribed so much that they had to rent a local theatre where they could get as many people in as they possibly could.
Wow.
Right, because there was, people were craving for social interaction, and I think that's something that we've really got to remember. Right, there's a lot of press around that says retail is dead. The death of retail. Right, retail isn't dead.
Mm-hmm.
Retail is thriving. Yes, it's a bit of a dinosaur at moving forward with the times, embracing technology, but retail is still the number one biggest retailer. The biggest employer in the United States, right? And so, people often say that they find their way, they accidentally find their way into a retail career. I'm a typical example of that. I absolutely did. But it's not dead. It's thriving. It's evolving. Yes, we're shopping differently. Yes, we're doing click and collect. Yes, we're buying online and returning in store. But we're just adapting, and retailers have got to adapt with that. The big guys, the Targets, the Walmarts. Yes, it's easy for them to do. Right. It's the middle ground that is where the battle is being fought. Because of maybe the investment that they need, or people that are a bit dyed in the wool, as we say. This is the way we've always done it.
Right.
And unfortunately, retail is no longer about opening the doors and turning on the lights, and it's going to happen. You've got to have an omni-channel marketing strategy. You need to be. You need to be doing things on Instagram and Facebook, and you need to be still have creative windows, and you still need to really motivate and inspire your team, because at the end of the day, that's the bit that really counts, right at the end there. That interaction with that sales associate or whoever, I think that. That's where that, as I say, that middle ground should really focus, offering amazing customer service, not good, not great, not average, amazing, so that it doesn't matter if you're $1 more expensive.
Right.
You want to go back there because they remember your name, or they remember what you purchased last. One of the nice things about going to somewhere regularly, and I don't know if you enjoy this, but when you go to somewhere like Starbucks, and they know what I drink, and you can be standing in queue and somebody will wave at you, and that this is because I don't like using the app because I want to talk to people, that it's there when you're ready to purchase, and so all of those things make a difference, and that's what retail's got to embrace.
And I'm glad you brought that up. And I want to delve into that a little more, the customer service side, because that's something that, frankly, it ticks me off. I'm an online shopper for the most part, unless there's something specific that I really need and I need to go to a mall, aside from the Targets and the Walmarts, right? But with the customer service, I mean, let's just face it, you go to places and there's some bad customer service. I mean, I have left places because I got bad customer service. What can be done about that? I mean, because you're in retail, you see it from a perspective that I don't see it, that the normal person doesn't see it. And how are you going about telling these brands what they need to do to get better?
Sure. Fundamentally, it comes down to training.
Right.
Okay. It comes down to training and inspiring. It's interesting that for me, when I accidentally found my way into retail. I was fortunate enough to be around people that loved what they did, but also really wanted to share their knowledge as well. And so that made my journey and my baptism into retail so much more easier. So the fundamental is, of course, the recruitment of the right people, of course, and then having a proper training structure and instilling the values of excellent customer service into people. It's not by design, but more just because of who we are, that we observe those things often. And as people say, bad news travels 10 times faster than good news does. So that place, the place that you've walked out, I'm pretty sure you'll have said to your friends, I wouldn't go back in there. The service is terrible, and so on. So the same happens with restaurants, same happens with bars, coffee shops, whatever, right? So, but the flip side of that is very rarely do we say, oh, you should go into this place because the service is great, and they have it. We just, because we feel, we just accept it as part of what we're doing. So the key fundamental for me is training and having the right people to train, people that can inspire, can motivate. Now, as a small business, you will never instill those values of your business and that passion that you have for your business into somebody that works for you. It's just not going to happen. But you can take them on the journey. You can inspire them. You can incentivize them. And there'll be people listening to this saying, well, if they paid a bit more, they could attract the right type of people and so on. And you're absolutely right. Minimum wage and that's a whole different conversation, of course. But for me, there are other ways to incentivize people. You can run sales competitions. You can have employee of the week. You can, even just, free coffees for everybody. And there are small things that you can do in that as well. And this isn't just in retail. This is in any business, in any walk of life. That just by saying thank you to somebody. Makes such a difference.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big believer that there's room for kindness in business, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're Boeing or a corner shop that sells cupcakes, right? There's room for kindness in business at any level. And I say that because kindness is the only currency that is welcomed in any environment, in any place, anywhere in the world. And it doesn't matter when you travel, because it doesn't lose value either, right? As a currency. And every day we wake up with a bank account that is overflowing. We are currency billionaires every day of our lives, and we should spend it as fast and as frivolously as we can with everybody that we possibly can, knowing that when we wake up in the morning, we're kindness billionaires again.
Yeah.
Right. And so that whole just coming back to what he was asking about, why is there poor service? There's poor service because people aren't motivated and aren't trained properly, and actually the people leading them probably don't like what they're doing, and so on. But that's life.
Yeah.
But I hope that there are more examples of amazing and excellent customer service that people will think about now as they think about that, than there are of poor customer service, because that 10x factor, that you're always going to remember the bad experience.
Right. Yeah. It's, and that's really, it's true. And it's funny because going through college, I worked retail. So I really, and for years I worked this man's clothing store in Chicago when I would go back to Chicago. And that was like my favorite. I loved it. I love dressing the men, and having them feel great going out with a suit and a shirt and a tie. I even had repeat customers that would come in and like bring, oh, this is my wife and she loved the outfit you picked out for me. So we're back again.
Absolutely.
So I love that. So I'm very keen on when there's bad service, but then I'm also very keen on when I get exceptional service, because when I go somewhere, let's just say to a restaurant, for instance, and I get good service from the wait staff, I tip appropriately. If I go to like you said, a Starbucks or a clothing store, and I'm remembered, and hey, yeah, we got this on file. We remember what you got. I'm like, oh wow, sweet. That makes my day, because you're like, yeah, I come here and I spend my money, and you guys remember me. So it says a lot. But then again, like you said, is dependent on who's leading that team, and how are they. And and my thing is, when I get really crappy service, I'm like, well, you know what, you're in the service industry, and if you don't want to be in the service industry, or you're got a bad attitude, you shouldn't be in the service industry, because
correct,
you're dealing with the public, and it's just how it is. You're in service, and you should at least have, like you said, kindness. At least have the kindness to
correct.
Make people happy that are patronizing your store. So
correct.
Yeah. So,
I agree.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So I want to move on. So you've done other things in your life. You're an author, you're a speaker, and you said you are on the TD Ameritrade channel. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So I've written 5 books now. A couple of them have been collaborations, and if you're thinking, I don't think I could ever write a book, but you could write a chapter of a book. Mm-hmm. Collaborating on a book is a great way to be inspired about writing a book. My first book was a collaboration with 33 other people. It was called the Secrets of the Business Wealth Accelerators. 33 millionaires and marketers share their secrets. And for a while, it was a #1 bestseller on Amazon Books. And we all wrote a chapter about our passion and our businesses and so on, which was fabulous. There was all sorts of things in there. And then I've written books around, obviously, pop-up retailing and customer service and so on. But in May last year, I did another collaboration about the new normal, and just about people that I had connected with on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Through the start of the pandemic, and it was kind of like, LinkedIn went from being, how can I put this? LinkedIn went from being the grown up in the social media, that stood in the corner and watched everybody else, to actually thinking, they're all having fun over there, I'm getting involved, right? So LinkedIn's culture and I think thinking has changed. And so with these people that I was linking with on LinkedIn, I said, listen, how would you all like to write a book? Right? I need a chapter about how you see life in a pandemic and what the new normal might look like. And it's called the new normal. Mm-hmm. And so there's that. I've just rewritten one of my books called Pop-Up for Beginners, the 2021 edition, mm-hmm. as well. So that's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks' time. But I encourage, it's not as difficult as you think to write a book. Mm-hmm. And speaking as somebody who left school at 16, didn't go to university, and found it scarier than it actually was. Mm-hmm. Right. And I worked with a really, really good editor and publisher, and we set down a writing plan and so on, and then just got into it. And you only need to write 500 words, 1,000 words a day. Mm-hmm. Right. And before you know where you are, you've got 50,000 words. Right. And so never be scared of trying something new is my learning from that. Mm-hmm. I really, really did. Same as speaking. Mm-hmm. I was always one that would put his hand up first to be in the school play. Mm-hmm. And so my love of being on stage started at a very, very early age. Mm-hmm. And as I traveled through my business journey, I always wanted to be the one to do the presentations, or to do the demonstrations. And I've been fortunate enough that that's transmitted into me being able to speak on stage and speak to large audiences around the world, and really just try and deliver some of my passion and inspiration around what I do. And it's not for everybody. I know people that that get completely sweaty palms at just the thought, and they're probably listening to this now, kind of wringing their hands. Oh, I could never do that. But there are things that really scare me. And then I've been fortunate enough to be able to do television in my life as well, and most recently for the TD Ameritrade network, which is like a bit like Bloomberg TV if you've never seen it. It's a business channel, and I go on there a couple of times a month and talk about retailing. But it's exciting, if you haven't guessed already, I'm passionate about what I do. I really love talking about retail and inspiring people about retail, and so that for me is really exciting. Just in the same way as doing podcasts like this, and being able to connect with people, it really just in an audible way, people I am never going to meet, but might just think, oh, I like the idea of that, and might go off and do something about it. Or, of course, might want to email you and go, really enjoyed that guy, thanks very much for putting him on. Or might want to email me and tell me, how much they enjoyed me as well. But so, and again, I come back to what I was saying earlier about if it's not bringing you joy, don't do it. Right. And I've done a lot of things that haven't brought me joy. But I think the world from when I was a small child has changed, dramatically, and I like to think I'm keeping pace with that, and embracing it. And I think a lot of people maybe are scared to do that as well.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. And it's funny because as you're speaking, I'm like, oh, we're like kindred spirits, because I was the person when I was little, I did all the church plays, and that's why I speak now. And I have a friend exactly like you were saying. She was like, the thought of speaking, just terrifies her. She breaks out in sweat, and she's like, oh my goodness, I can't do it. And she's like, it doesn't bother. And I'm like, I love it. I'm like, it fuels me. So it's something I love to do. I wrote a book that was published 2020, and then I just co-authored, like you were saying, collaborated with someone with like 29, 30 other authors in an anthology that came out just last week.
I saw.
And and I'm like, and you're so right. It's so different when you're with people that you would never been able to talk to. And it's, and I'm going to just tell this quick story. The lady who spearheaded the anthology was someone I had on my podcast a couple years ago. And she reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to be part of this anthology? And I was like, okay. So it's really great. So now I can say I'm a 2-time author. One was solo, one was, collaborating, and the collaboration is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting you use that word collaboration, because, that's the buzzword. Apart from pop-ups, that's the other buzzword in retail right now is collaboration.
Okay.
Brands working with brands, Target working with Ulta, Target working with Apple, Kohl's working with Amazon. You're going to see a lot more of that in the retail space for sure.
Now, and that just sparked a question from for you. So with that, because like you're saying, I can go to Target and I'll see some big brand in their store that normally would stand alone. With how the world has happened this past year, and especially in America, I'm starting to see the big brands now that are doing the Black Lives Matter. The commercials have changed, right? They're more interracial, whether it's black and white, male and male, female and female. What do you think about that? How long is that going to last? Is this something that retail and big brands are just doing because of the spotlight, or is this something that they're really feeling that, okay, this is what we need to do to continue on?
Yeah, sure. So that's a really, really good question. First off, I think it was too long in coming, right? We should, let's take a step back. TV advertising now is a really small part of people's marketing budget anyway, right? We have technology, we have social media and all of those different mediums now. And TV marketing hasn't kept pace, I don't think, with what's going on socially in the world. So, having different styles of television advertising, it should have happened 10 years ago. It should have happened 20 years ago. In fact, it should have happened the first day that television started, right? I hope and I pray that social responsibility amongst brands, right, just stays as exactly that, their social responsibility to be involved, right? Because we all have a responsibility as individuals to be involved, however much or not we want to be, but we have that responsibility, right? And I think it's great when you see brands stepping up around, the voting laws and all of that sort of stuff. It's so encouraging that brands want to get involved in Black Lives Matter, but it should have been going on long. It shouldn't take a disaster, right, for things like that to happen.
Right.
And I feel really strongly about that. I do hope it stays. I do hope, and I think it will. And I pray it will. But social inclusion is part of who we are, right? Under the skin, we all have a heart. We all have lungs. We're the same inside.
Right.
Just because we look differently, it doesn't
matter.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I grew up in North London, very, very socially diverse part of London, and kids just get along, don't they?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What happens when we become adults? I have no idea.
Exactly.
And I know there's a lot. There's a lot of tension, not just here in the States, but in the world. You'd have to be foolish not to understand that. But I think when people of influence come forward and make a stand and are happy to speak out, then I think that encourages people of less influence, just to stand up in a shop or just to stand up in a bar or whatever, and speak out against things that are wrong or things that or just help somebody.
Right.
It's a really lovely question. I've never been asked that, and I'm thank you for having the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you for answering that, because that's something that I have been wondering. I'm like, is this real? Is this going to stay? Because I feel like exactly like you do. This is far too long coming. It shouldn't have taken that for us to see what we see now in marketing and advertising, because that's the way of the world. And it's just, so that's just been something I've really been wondering. So I'm glad that I had someone who actually works in the field that I could ask that to. So thank you for answering that. It's just, so I don't want to bring the conversation down because we've been having such a good time, but I'm going to go into the questions. So are you ready for my questions?
I am standing by.
Okay. So number one, who or what motivates you?
There are a ton of people that motivate me. The biggest motivating factor for me is the voice of my mother in the back of my head. Right. And can I tell you a quick story around this? You remember I said I bought that first company that I was working for. I sold everything. I was at a lawyer's office, doing contracts and all that sort of thing. Very, very young man doing that. I hadn't told my parents. Just so this will make sense now. And I'm supposed to be at a family dinner, and I'm going to be late. And I rang my mother. We didn't have mobile phones back in those days. And I rang my mum and I said, look, Mum, I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be late back. I was actually in Scotland, which was the other end of the country, right? I'm going to have to get on a plane and come back. And she, why? What are you doing? And I said that, I'm buying, and the business was called Retail Location. I'm buying Retail Location off of Roy. And her words to me were, who are you to be buying a company?
Ooh.
And that has motivated me since that day. And yes, there are lots of great people there are people that nobody has ever heard of that motivate me.
Mm-hmm.
And there are the obvious people, the Gary V's,
Right.
who I love. But there are people. There's a guy I work with in the UK called Roy Wade, who's we just enjoy working together. A guy I'm working with in Germany called Jens Heitland, who is inspirational. But the big one is Mum's voice in the back of my head.
I know that feeling. What demotivates you?
For me, it's when I know ghosting has become a term, hasn't it? Now, right? That for me, it's when people are very, very enthusiastic about wanting to do something, and then you put in a lot of work with them, and then when they're meant to sign on the dotted line or give you the thumbs up or whatever you want to call it, they go missing.
Yeah,
they go missing. And what demotivates me is not the fact they've gone missing. It's the fact that they just couldn't turn around and go, Stephen, right now it's not for me. Or Stephen, I can't afford it because then I'll try and find a way. Maybe we can work together. Or something's changed in the business and I've changed my mind.
Right.
Now I'm a bit of a tenacious character, and so I'll keep I will, and any good salesperson will do this. We'll just keep picking up the phone once in a while and going but I just it upsets me that people and I do feel a bit sorry for them that they just don't have the courage to turn around and say it's not for me, because it's no big deal.
Right.
But if I only work with a small group of people at any one time, and so if I'm reserving a space for you, that means somebody else. I can't work with somebody else who maybe might need me not as much as you appear to need me, but I can still offer great value and do great work with them. And so it's that, and I think the other thing from a social perspective is that we don't have enough good news.
Yeah.
We don't, and there is plenty of good news on the planet.
Yes.
And I've I kind of watch CNN maybe for 5-10 minutes in the mornings. Whereas a couple of years ago, maybe when I first moved here, I would have it on all day long while I was working.
Yeah.
But I've turned it off. Yeah. A, because it's repetitive.
Yes.
And B, because it does kind of let the air out of your balloon over the course of the day.
Yeah. So yeah, I do the same thing. Okay. When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
That's a really good, tough question. Can I do a sad and a tough time?
Yeah.
Can I split it up? The saddest time for me was the day my father passed away, because he was a huge influence in my life. And no matter where I was, we spoke every day. And when my mum passed away, and I got him a mobile phone, he would text me every morning when he woke up, and then we would talk during the course of the day, and then he would say goodnight before he went to bed and stuff. And I miss that morning text. I'm getting quite emotional thinking about it. I missed that morning text off of him. That makes me really sad. Tough learning lessons. Interestingly enough, on the 13th of May, I'm actually doing a video cast about how entrepreneurs F up. It's called the Entrepreneur F Up Night. And so there'll be plenty of those where I've made the mistakes. The tough decisions for me, I think, were not learning very on in business, being a business owner, the need to build a trusting team around me quickly, and allowing myself to be I don't want to say manipulated, and I don't want to say conned, because I have to take responsibility for it. But I just allowed myself to rely on people that maybe had a different agenda from what I did. Yeah. And so that was a very tough lesson for me. But one I learned. I mean, I like I say, I learned it pretty quickly. But that was, and when I say, it's not just the team that you interact with every day as well. My extended team is accountants and bankers and lawyers as well. And if you find yourself a good accountant and a good lawyer, hold on to them. Because they need to understand your business, not just from a legal perspective. They need to understand how your business operates to give you great advice. So
great. What is your fear?
My obvious fear is not being here in the mornings.
That's a good fear to have.
I mean, it is. Not actually physically being here. My it's not a fear as such, but that I will fall out of love with what I do. Because of something that maybe I can't control. I mean, a pandemic is a classic example. For spending months, wondering if retail was coming back or whatever. Really did. Was really quite terrifying. So that would be my other fear.
That's good.
I mean, that's a very personal thing. I mean, there are things that frighten me in terms of economy and debt and all of that sort of stuff. But when I'm answering these questions, I'm answering them from a very
that's what I want. I want personal.
A very kind of personal position.
No, that's exactly what I want. I don't want the textbook answer. I want you. And that was a very good answer, because I had never gotten that kind of answer before. So that's very, very thought provoking. Is there a time, so this is different from the other one. So is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, in business all the time, there are things, that maybe it was an investment. Maybe it was I shouldn't have opened that office, or I shouldn't have employed that person. Yeah. There were, so at one point in the United Kingdom, I had 5 different businesses in my portfolio, from pop-up retailing. We were designing, we had a PR business. We had a manufacturing business of kiosks and so on. And I was also an Apple premium reseller. So I had a couple of stores that sold Apple products. And I wish I'd have had more of those earlier on. It was right at the start of kind of, the Apple retail era. And Apple weren't really sure which way they were going in terms of, were they going to open their own stores, or were they going to allow, it wasn't a franchise as such, but we had all the branding and we looked like, very mini Apple stores. I wish I'd have got into that sooner. And built a stronger portfolio, because I'm a retailer at heart. I'm a retailer at heart. So yeah, so that would be it for me.
Your definition of success?
Happiness and joy. That it doesn't matter. I know people that have lots of money in the bank and are as sad and as unhappy, but appear successful. For me, success is measured by the people around you that you can inspire and inspire you. Success is about closing your eyes at the end of the day, knowing that you did the best you possibly could. If I can just reference back, saying I was bullied at school. So one thing I realized growing up through adolescence and so on was that if I was going to achieve anything in my life, the thing I had to have was inner belief in me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, it's very important every day that every morning I wake up and I'm grateful for the things around me, but every night I'm grateful for the things that I've been able to accomplish, and the things that I've been able to learn, and the things that I've been able to pass on. So it's not about what you got in the bank. It's about what you've got in your head.
Wow.
That's how I measure success.
Wow. How do you recharge?
I'm one of these people that doesn't need a lot of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I can get by on kind of I don't know, 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I know people that say, well, I can get on a lot less than that. I love cooking.
Oh.
Cooking even during the pandemic became a bit of a passion for me, experimenting and so on. I like to iron, iron clothes.
Why?
I find it relaxing.
Really?
I find it relaxing. Stood at an ironing board. There's nothing nicer than ironing a shirt to look crisp
right.
And there's an immense amount of satisfaction in that. For me, other people go, he irons. I don't think anybody. Don't even know if they sell irons anymore. But for me, it's a relaxation, and it allows me to think, and I guess that allows me to recharge. I do like to play golf.
Okay.
Probably, I do love my golf. I love watching golf.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're the key things for me. I also do like at some point during the day to be outside,
Mm-hmm.
and whether that's working on my phone or tablet or whatever.
Right.
But just to be outside, I'm lucky. You can see behind me. There's a beautiful park.
Yeah.
Right across the road from where I am. To go and sit in the park and just be, just be in some kind of nature. Feel the air, feel the sunshine or feel the cold. Doesn't really matter. And that really helps me as well. That I get really creative when I do that as well.
Love it.
Which I love.
Okay. So besides retail, what are you awesome at?
I'm a bit of a karaoke star.
Really?
Yeah, I love singing.
Really?
So I sang in the church. I sung in the church choir from the age of about seven till I was 15.
Oh.
I am generally the first one to put my name down for a karaoke song. Cooking, I love to cook. I maybe in a different life I would have been a chef, perhaps.
Oh.
I maybe. So I'm pretty good at golf. I'm not single handicap figures, but I love playing, so I enjoy that. But I also like putting smiles on people's faces.
Oh.
And if I was asked recently, what do you think your superpower is?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know. I don't really think I have one. But but if I were to have one, I would think it would be that I could relax somebody enough that they could breathe and smile.
Oh, that's great. Oh, see, now I know that you cook. The next time I'm in Chicago, I'm going to call you.
Did you please call me up at table for two?
Yeah, I'm going to say, hey, what? I love it. Love the cooking. Did you say you like wine? Did you say that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. The occasional glass of wine. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm a whiny. I love it. Whiny, wino, whatever you want to say. But okay. What legacy do you want to leave?
Well, in this day and age, we're working. Obviously, there's a lot of digital content out there. We're building an online course at the moment for pop-up retailing. So that would be a nice thing to leave. The books. I think. Listen, no one's going to name the wing of a hospital after me, or put up a big brass statue in Lincoln Park. Stephen Brooks lived here. If anything, I would just like for people to think kindly of me. That's the legacy I would like to leave behind.
Wow, that's nice. The kindness theme you have, I like it. And I like your energy. You're very positive, motivating, and that's why I do this show, because there's too much chatter.
Absolutely. No, there is. And you do have to tune it out,
Yes.
You do have to tune it out.
Yes, too much. Give the listeners one motivational takeaway.
Do it now. That's literally, do it now. Whatever it is, do it now. Stop thinking about it and start doing it, because what you don't want to do tomorrow is wake up and think, what if? And we're a long time on this earth, right? If we take care of ourselves and we eat well and we exercise and, we take care of our brains and we take care of each other, we're a long time on this earth. Do not be laying on your deathbed with regrets. Do not. And so, the two things, that self-belief, my two mantras are: do it now, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes is obviously within, boundaries, right. Of course. But they're the two things. So, if you want to write a book, start typing. If you want to record a song, start playing the music. If you want to do a dance on TikTok, turn your phone on. If you want to be on a podcast with great hosts, put yourself out there about, I'd like to be a guest on you because I love what you're doing. Right? Don't be afraid to do it now. That's the thought I would like to leave with people.
Wow, great. So Steve, tell the listeners how they can connect with you if they want to do business with you, how they can find your book, your courses, everything.
Sure. Easiest way to connect with me is drop me an email, and that's steve@thepopupexpert.com. You can find me on Instagram @theretailspecialist, and you can find me on LinkedIn. In fact, if you Google the Pop-Up Retail Expert or the Pop-Up Expert, I'm the #1 hit on Google. For that, it will take you to my website, the Pop-Up Expert. Listen, just reach out. I love hearing from people, regardless, and not just about business. It's nice that I've formed some very great friendships through business. That means that you can help people in other ways as well. I also work with a non-for-profit here in Chicago as well, called Generations Empowered, which is a mental health charity, which I'm immensely proud of the work that they do. And so, we all need to give back in some way, shape or form, even if it's just a random act of kindness.
So true. Well, you know what, Steve? I thank you for being on Trina Talk. I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn after this, so be watching out for my request. But thank you. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. And, I love retail. So, yeah, we'll stay in touch.
Good for you. And Trina, again, thank you for that. Keep doing what you're doing. I listened to some of these before we did this today. I love what you're doing. I love the people you have on. I hope I've lived up to some of the great people I've listened to in the last few days prior to coming here. And thanks for having me on your podcast.
If you like Trina Talk podcast, please don't forget to go out to iTunes and rate it 5 stars and leave a review. Also, who else in your life do you know that needs some motivation and inspiration in their lives? Don't forget to share Trina Talk with them. I hope you have a great week. And remember, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Keep striving, because success is a journey, not a destination.